Hi guys, thanks for joining me today. This is going to be the start of the cruise series videos, and I've gotten several questions. I think this all started in a vlog when I mentioned we had booked another cruise, talked a little bit about vacations. I started getting a lot more questions. Some of you may know that we take cruises usually about once or twice a year. So when I started getting more questions, I thought, well, let me put together some videos that will kind of give you some general information, will help. These are just going to be real informal videos. That's why I'm putting it on the vlog channel. I'm sitting here in my office. I've put out on Twitter and Facebook before, if you have any questions, let me know, and then I'll answer those as we go on in the videos. We are getting ready to take a cruise here in a few weeks, so I thought this was a good time while things were kind of fresh on my mind. I did write some notes where I'm going to try to kind of break down the videos a little bit into kind of categories if I can remember. Just warning you, they may be a little all over the place as I think of things. But in this first one, I thought I would kind of just give some general information about cruise lines, kind of how to pick a cruise line, what my favorites are, where I've been, where to get information, things like that. And then, like I said, as I post the videos, if you guys have questions, definitely leave them in the comments and we'll go from there. And then as we get closer, I'll end up doing like a packing video and show you what I'm going to actually pack. And I'm also going to be vlogging while I'm on the cruise this time. I know I've not really been very good at that in the past, and I think it was last year this time we took a cruise in late February. I do have a video on that. Vlogged a little bit, like I said, not real great. Outfits of the day, you get to see the ship a little bit. But my husband and I are normally like in the moment kind of people when we cruise or just take vacation for that matter. So I'm not always real great, you know, about thinking about getting the camera out. But since I've been vlogging more, I think I'm more in the habit now. So anyway, I do plan on vlogging on that cruise, so that, you know, and then as I'm on the ship, I'm sure things will come to mind that I'll remember and tell you, so that'll be a good thing to watch too. But like I said, this is kind of just, you know, informal, just gonna let you know a few things. As far as like cruises, I have been on, the one we're taking in a few weeks will be the 12th, we believe. We kind of lost track of one somewhere. I actually, last year when we started trying to remember all of them, I made a spreadsheet because we kind of at least knew the year, if not the exact month we took cruises. So I started making a spreadsheet because I thought, you know, I really want to know where have I been, what cruise lines. I started putting in, if I remembered the information, like what kind of cabin we had. And then I also wanted to start that spreadsheet so that I could remind myself of any specific things I remembered about that cruise, like things I liked or didn't like. I could kind of put it in a notes section. So me, you know, just being organized and like doing those kind of things, that kind of worked for me. But like I said, we know we took one in between these two cruises, but we really don't remember anything about it, which is odd. So but maybe that just goes with the territory the more you've taken. And to some of you that may seem like a lot, and then to others, like I'm on the Cruise Critic website, you know, they have a forum. I mean, people take cruises, you know, they've probably been on like 50 or more. Some people have even been like on 100. It's crazy. So anyway, my husband and I first started taking them because we lived in Florida and it was just easy to, you know, drive over the bridge and get on the ship or drive a couple hours away because obviously, you know, Florida has a lot of cruise terminals. You know, there's Port Canaveral, Fort Lauderdale, Miami, Tampa. I think Jacksonville may have one now, but so anyway, it was just like an easy way to take a weekend trip or something like that. So we just really got into it. And when we first started, it was fairly inexpensive. It's kind of had its ups and downs, and a lot of that depends on, you know, fuel prices. There was a gap of many years where we didn't take one because it was kind of expensive at the time. So anyway, my first cruise was in 1999. My husband and I, that was our first kind of big trip together when we first got together. It was around my birthday. And it was great. We, you know, we liked it. And there's like always those things I love about cruising and things I hate about it. But as the older we've gotten, you know, as we get older, I should say, and we've taken some nicer cruises, it really like kind of spoils you. You know, some people just love any cruise no matter what. We're kind of getting spoiled and getting picky the more we've been on. There's definitely cruise lines I prefer over others. So let me just let you know that I have been on Premier, which was my first one, which they're no longer in business. That was the Big Red Boat, for any of you out there that have heard of that or have maybe been on the Big Red Boat. Like I said, they went out of business quite a while ago. Let's see, I've been on Carnival a few times, both a short trip and a long trip. And when I say short, I mean like 3 or 4 day, and long, like standard, is 7 nights. I've been on Royal Caribbean, I've been on Holland America, and I've been on Celebrity. And I would have to say our favorite overall would be Royal Caribbean or Celebrity. If you're just starting out, I think Royal Caribbean is that great line, kind of median, you know, as far as the clientele that's on it, the pricing, what the ship offers. I always just think that's a great ship to start with. Now, Carnival's going to be less expensive, but with less expensive, the clientele is going to be a little bit different. Carnival's known for having like a younger clientele. My husband and I don't really like Carnival at all. There's people who either love it or don't love it, to put it nicely. There are things I like about Carnival. For instance, you know, they have pretty big cabins, you know, standard size. When you really start comparing everything to square footage on the cabins, Carnival overall is pretty large. Excuse me. But just like, I don't know, their entertainment is pretty good, but as a whole, the line to me is a little cheesy. It's definitely for young people that want to party, you know, it's kind of known for that. Of course, there are older people and families, so if you've been on there and you're not a young partier, please don't, you know, say, oh, it's not just for that. You know, I realize that, but that's kind of what they're known for. I mean, their slogan, you know, they're kind of known as being called the fun ship. It just, to me, like I said, we just don't love it. Royal Caribbean, however, is definitely one of our favorites. You know, we always used to joke that they always had the best bingo. On the last ship we were just on, though, Freedom of the Seas, the bingo wasn't great. And that's one thing. My husband loves to play bingo when we're on a cruise. And you can win some pretty big money on bingo on a cruise ship. But it depends on the cruise line, you know, and that just depends on the cruise line for the entertainment as well. Celebrity, that's the one we're actually going on, this next one. This will be our 3rd Celebrity cruise. Started with them just a couple of years ago. They're usually a little bit pricier. Sometimes that's why it's just usually out of the price range for some people, but it's one of those you get what you pay for. It's pricier just because the service is outstanding. It's usually a little bit better. The crew to passenger ratio is a little better. You know, it's just those tiny little touches that you start noticing when you've been on a lot of cruises. So for instance, if you start out with Celebrity, it would probably be hard for you, or a Holland America for that matter. They're both very similar. It would be hard for you to, you know, take something else. You would notice like just little amenities and things like that. You know you're paying a little more, and you get, you know, like I said, what you pay for. The entertainment sometimes on Celebrity is a little lacking. They are kind of known, Celebrity and Holland America, for a little bit older clientele. However, we've noticed the last few years, price doesn't seem to be dictating the clientele as much, like on Royal Caribbean and Celebrity, as it once used to, it seems like. It seems like years ago you had set clientele, kind of this price range was this clientele, you know, and so on and so forth. But Holland and Celebrity are definitely known for having a little bit older, you may notice. Not like saying you won't see any 20-somethings or 30-somethings running around. But just to be aware of that, and I think sometimes their entertainment reflects that. Sometimes there's not quite as much to do, but then again, you're not going to see the cheese ball, like belly flop in the pool contest and all that stuff. Now, some people I know love that. They think it's entertaining, and I think if you've never been on a cruise, you need to experience like all that kind of stuff just to get, you know, a feel for it. But once, you know, somebody like us that we've been on a lot, you know, we could care less about that kind of corny stuff anymore. You know, I'm just letting you know my experience, how we feel about things. as far as like cruise lines in the US, now this is kind of just what I'm referring to because that's where I live. Obviously there are other cruise lines in Europe. Not that some of the US cruise lines don't cruise in Europe, they do, like Royal Caribbean, Celebrity. But here, you know, you basically have the choice of Carnival, Royal Caribbean, Celebrity, Holland America, Norwegian. I feel like maybe I'm forgetting, oh, Disney, of course. I feel like I'm forgetting something. Let me know if I am, for those of you. But those are your main ones. You know, used to, people always said, oh, Carnival was great for like the first time cruisers. You know, they range from small ships to large ships, kind of like every cruise line does anymore. You kind of have the smaller ones for your little 3 and 4 day weekend trips, and then you have the larger ones for 7 and 10 days and on. You know, if you can, I would always suggest maybe taking a short weekend trip just to get your feet wet with cruising if you've never done that. That's a great way to do it, especially if you live within driving distance of, you know, a cruise port, like if you live in Texas or California, Florida, you know, any of those coastal areas. It's a good way, like I said, just to kind of get the feel for cruising. But by no means does that, I feel like, give you a big picture of what cruising. I always say to people, if you've only been on 3 or 4 day cruises or like on Carnival or things like that, you really have not experienced cruising till you go on a nice 7 day or, you know, 7 or 10 day. 7 days is the standard cruise, you know. That's where I feel like you get to kind of experience everything. So like I said, if I had to pick my favorite, it would definitely be Celebrity and Royal Caribbean. We're going on Celebrity here in a few weeks. It is basically the sister ship of the ship we went on last time, which was Celebrity Eclipse. This one will be Celebrity Silhouette. And we have also been on Celebrity, and then I cannot remember the other Celebrity we went on. Actually, the first Celebrity was a smaller ship, but we actually think that had the best food and the best service so far. So we'll see on this new, this other one we're going on. And then in September, we are going on Royal Caribbean. We're going on Allure of the Seas. This will be my first time going on the big mega ship, either Allure or Oasis. So I'm really looking forward to that. I'm going to leave in the information bar where we look up pricing information and everything. For pretty much since our first cruise, we look up information with cruises only. Now, in the last, I would say 3 years, I have a friend who has become a travel agent, and now I go through her just because I like, you know, giving her the business. She also can give me some perks that way. You know, it's just a nice thing to do. People think you pay more when you go through a travel agent, and that's not true. For most cases anyway. It's usually they just get the commission. But I always like to do kind of my first initial research on cruises only. I think it's a great site, easy to navigate. You can put in your parameters, you know, where you're wanting to go, you know, time frame or whatever, and then it gives you all the choices, and then it breaks down the prices. So for instance, when you're looking at a cruise on this site, you will see inside cabin is almost always going to be your cheapest route, and then it goes ocean view, which means you have a window, a view of the ocean. You have a balcony. Some ships offer balconies, some don't. Some of the smaller ones don't offer it, but most of the larger ones these days do. And then you have a suite, you know, or family suite, and so on. Depending if they're running specials or not, sometimes a balcony and an ocean view is the same price, so I would always suggest getting the balcony. Once you have a balcony, it is hard not to have one, let me just say that. I've stayed in an inside cabin one time, and I will never do that again. If you are looking just to save some money, get an inside cabin. I, however, like to have some natural daylight, so at least I would want an ocean view. I will get more into cabins and selection and what they are and stuff in another video, but just kind of let you know, like if you first go to a website, that's how you're going to see pricing, and inside will typically be the lowest. And I like cruises only because it actually breaks down like the per night cost. People think cruising's like really expensive, but if you consider what is included in the price, meaning you're basically like your hotel and your food for the week, you know, no alcohol, but it's very inexpensive. It's a great way to travel because you don't have to worry about what am I going to eat tonight, you know, except for them handing you the menu and you having to choose off the menu, but you know, that's why we like it. I had mentioned Cruise Critic. That's a great site. I belong to Cruise Critic. I actually have done really extensive research for our cruise in September just because Oasis and Allure, the cabin choices are just tremendous. I mean, it's kind of mind-boggling, and you know, if I'd never been on a cruise or only been on a few, I probably wouldn't be as picky, but we're wanting to make sure, you know, we get just the right cabin, so I've done a lot of research. That's a good site to get a lot of information if you want to join. You know, they have forums and so forth. So I will again list that below. And as far as real quick, just where I've been, and then I'm going to end this one. I've mainly been to the Eastern and the Western Caribbean, and I know that probably doesn't sound like a lot considering how many cruises we've taken, but keep in mind I lived in Florida for the majority of all those cruises except for I think the last two. And so it was just easy to go out of a port in Florida instead of, you know, like fly somewhere. Alaska is a very popular destination. You know, we do plan on doing that someday, but it's also a long flight. You usually go out of Seattle. I don't love flying, so just, you know, those kind of things, you know, that I have to keep in mind. Depending on the cruise line, you know, you'll have different private islands that you go to, different stops, different cruise lines go to different stops. Some of them all go to the same, like for instance, if it's a popular one like Grand Cayman or St. Martin, you might have 5 or 6 cruise ships in port in the same day. So that way, you know, it kind of gives you a cool look at different ships too. But as far as the Eastern, I don't love the Eastern Caribbean just because depending on what cruise port you're sailing out of, everything is so far south, you know, you usually have like 2 days at sea in a row, and that can kind of get a little boring, at least for us. And then you also don't stop at as many places because it takes you so long to get there and get back. And like I said, that just depends on what port you leave out of. And to be honest, they kind of all start to look a little bit the same. And I think a lot of it is from we've lived in Florida so long that when you live in a tropical place, it's not as exciting to go to another tropical place. We definitely prefer Western Caribbean more. And there are certain islands in the Western Caribbean that we definitely prefer more. But you know, you just gotta go and travel and see, and you know, so that you know which ones you like, which ones you don't. For us anymore, it's just more about cruising and being on the ship and going somewhere. It's not specifically where we're going, because most of the places by now we've already seen once or twice. Like for instance, Cozumel, we've probably been there 5 or 6 times. Same with Grand Cayman. But you know what, we like Cozumel because we get off the ship, we walk around, we eat some great, you know, Mexican food, you know, and we like it. So anyway, you know, I don't want this to start getting, you know, longer than it already is, and I don't want to confuse you and bombard you with a lot of information all at once. Like I said, I will start breaking down the videos a little bit more, but by all means, you know, leave your comments down below and I will get to those. Either I'll answer you personally in the comments, or I will wait and address them in another video if I start seeing like people have the same comments over and over. And some of you have messaged me personally when you have specific questions. I don't mind that as well. But like I said, I was just getting a lot of questions, so I thought, let me go ahead and do some videos on this. So again, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time. Bye.